You know the moment, picture it. You're in a tense meeting at work, and something has just gone sideways. Or maybe it's a family get-together, trying to figure out a crisis. It's any moment, really, where there's a ton of uncertainty. And then, suddenly, every single pair of eyes in the room turns to one person. That glance, right there, that single moment of focused attention, well, that's where leadership actually begins.
So let's just start with this really simple, but honestly, super powerful definition. Leadership, it's not really about having a title or being the boss or having a certain rank. It all kicks off in that one instant when people look to you for a sign, for some kind of direction, for the answer to that big question, okay, what do we do now?
So in this explainer, we're going to unpack that. We're going to look at how that one single fleeting moment of attention, that glance, can actually harden into a system that either helps a group grow and renew itself or causes it to slowly, quietly fall apart over time. And what's so fascinating about this is just how natural the whole process is. See, when things are up in the air and nobody knows what's going on, our attention just automatically looks for a focus point. It's almost like a survival instinct, right? And in that moment, influence is born, way before anyone is ever officially put in charge. This right here is the absolute key. Once you become that focal point, nothing you do is neutral anymore. Your pace, that teaches the group its pace. Your silence on a certain topic, that teaches everyone what's off limits. What you're willing to tolerate, well, that just became the new standard for everybody. Your actions stop being just your own. They basically become the instruction manual for the whole group.
Okay, so how does that first glance, that soft pattern, actually harden into something that lasts? Let's dive into how it builds into a real, durable structure. You can see this whole thing unfold in about 3 phases. First, you have attention finding its focus. Then, through repeated actions, influence starts to build up because all these examples are teaching the group the unwritten rules. And finally, all that repetition becomes a habit, and it hardens into a formal structure where leadership just kind of solidifies around that one person or that one way of doing things. I mean, think about it. What a leader actually does, what they praise, what they call out, what they just let slide, that teaches the real rules of the game. And that is so much more powerful than any mission statement hanging on a wall. Every time an action is repeated, it carves a deeper and deeper groove, turning what was once a suggestion into the default setting for the whole group. And this brings us to a really critical fork in the road. Because once that structure is in place, it isn't just neutral. It immediately starts moving down one of 2 very, very different paths. Right from that central point where leadership gets established, the whole system takes a journey. It's either going to trend toward renewal and health, or it's going to trend toward erosion and decay. There's really no middle ground where things just stay the same.
So how can you tell which path your group is on? Well, renewing groups, the healthy ones, they actually welcome dissent. They let feedback change the plan. But eroding groups, they shut down disagreement. Learning totally collapses because nobody wants to deliver bad news. And those temporary exceptions made during an emergency, yeah, those become permanent rules.
You see, the real secret to a healthy, renewing group is its ability to hear tough truths and actually correct its course while the stakes are still relatively low. It's all about being responsive, not just about being right from the start. And this is the big red flag. The moment it becomes socially, professionally, or personally expensive to raise a concern or to point out a flaw, that's the moment the system has started to rot. The truth just becomes too costly to tell.
All right, so how can you actually diagnose the health of a group that you're in? Let's give you a couple of practical tools so you can see which path it's really on.
This grid looks a little academic, but it's an incredibly powerful tool. It basically maps groups on 2 different scales. Scalability, which is their ability to get bigger, and adaptability, their ability to change direction. Up in the top right, you've got regenerative groups. They can do both. But down in the bottom left, you have stalled groups. They can't do either. It just goes to show you that the healthiest groups aren't just big, they're able to respond and adapt.
So the first key vital sign to check is correction. You can think of it like the immune system for the group. Is it strong enough to get a warning signal and actually react? Or is it suppressed, just letting problems get worse and worse under the surface? And the second vital sign is circulation. This one asks a really simple question. Is leadership a role that can be shared? Can it pass to the person who has the most relevant knowledge at that moment? Or is it a fixed position, a gate that's kept by one person, creating a permanent bottleneck for everyone else? Now, if you want to put all this into practice, here's a super simple but really powerful test. Just ask these questions in any group.
Who really pays the price when a decision fails? Who's always protected from the consequences? The answers to those questions, they're going to reveal the true power structure and the real health of the system way better than any org chart ever could.
So if these signs are often pretty clear, why do we get it wrong so often? Why do we constantly misjudge the health of our leaders in our groups? Well, it turns out our brains are kind of wired with a couple of tricky shortcuts that get in the way. First up, we've got something called outcome bias. This is when, if the result was good, we just automatically assume the process to get there was good too. But a lucky win can easily hide a really, really unhealthy system. Then there's structural blindness. This is where we get so focused on a leader's personality or their great speeches that we completely miss the underlying structure of how decisions actually get made. And all of this leads us right into the intention trap. We fall for this all the time. We believe that because a leader seems to mean well, that the structure they're in charge of must be healthy. But you know what? Good intentions are no substitute for a system that is fundamentally closed off to correction and feedback. So, the really crucial takeaway here is this. We have to learn to listen less to the loud, flashy stories about success and failure, and start paying way more attention to the quiet but decisive signals of structural health. So let's just throw out all the old ways we judge leadership, things like quarterly earnings or popularity polls, and let's propose a single, much more reliable standard instead. This is it. This is the ultimate test. It's not about being right all the time. Nobody is. It's about building a system that can get it right over time, because it stays open to challenge, to feedback, and to reality. In other words, can it fix itself? And so we're going to end by turning this lens right back on you, in your team, in your family, your community, in all the places where people might look to you or where you look to others. Just ask yourself this one simple but really searching question. Can bad news still change the plan? The answer to that, well, that tells you everything you need to know.